All
right,
right,
sure.
it's good.
I'll follow your lead on this one.
All righty. Okay. So the the main thing that I was just so confused by is I said to you, I was like, the thing I want at the very least is like a Belle and Eggman scene where it's like, okay, you know, it wouldn't make much sense, but you know, maybe we can try to like retcon something interesting here. And he just went with like the most basic version, which would be, okay, Belle confronts Eggman and like tells him, gives her a piece of her mind or whatever. But it's like even that was like lackluster. I couldn't believe it.
I don't even know why they even wasted their time with that. Because I'm like, fine. Like on one hand, I'm like, I want to be critical. I've always been critical about this because I'm like, there's nothing you could really. I always felt like there was not much that could really be done with the whole Belle and Eggman relationship because they try so desperately to make Eggman and Tinker be two different people. And since Eggman clearly has like no connection to her, has no like fondness or any reason to connect with her, I'm not entirely sure what they were trying to do unless they went your route and tried like retconning the idea of like, oh, he has like some type of connection or bond with the fact that she's a robot that he ended up creating, even if it wasn't directly him. But no, he just kind of keeps to his evil. She just says, I'm through with you. And he basically just goes, whatever, peace. And I'm like,
yeah.
what's even the point of that? Like,
yeah,
why do we do that?
And it was weird too, because I was like, okay, even if you can't get anything out of Eggman, surely you can like make some interesting connection to her and Metal Sonic, where it's like they're both kind of daddy's little boy and girl, only once for Eggman and once for Tinker. And so like you could have them like, even if like they're not like friends or whatever, like he saved her, and it would be kind of interesting if he was like they had to like help each other, like get around. But no, she just like helps him. And then it's like, all right, I guess we're going to Eggman or something like that. And then they do, and that's it. So they didn't even get anything out of Metal Sonic.
God. No, I don't even know. Like, I feel like the only reason they kept him around is because they just fodderized him at the end of Imposter Syndrome. So they just had to bring him back here to show that he's still to just instantly show that he's functional. I feel like at some point that might have been the idea to draw the thematic parallel between the two, because I'm like, it's something, but it's something. And sadly enough, it's the best out of the four parallels here. It's the only one that actually has any kind of sense to it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, now that you bring that up, yeah, because they're paralleling Starline and Eggman, or at the very least, if they're not paralleling, they're having like, I mean, they're paralleling, whatever. They're paralleling Eggman and Starline. They're paralleling Surge and Sonic, and then Tails and Kitsuname. And it's like none of those work except for like Belle and Metal Sonic, which he doesn't even try to do. That's the only one that actually makes sense, and he doesn't even attempt to do it.
God.
And I get like, yeah, because I mean, like even Starline and Eggman, like I don't know what the parallel is, or like what the contrast is, or like what I mean. Unless did you have anything else to say about Belle and Metal Sonic, or can we move on to Eggman?
No, let's move on, because I have officially no. Like honestly, I barely even registered Belle and Metal. You're right. Like you're right about everything about them, but I barely I only really came up with that stuff because you brought it up. So yeah, let's just move into the big three.
All right, let's start with Eggman and Starline. So my theory that Starline, like that he remembered, or that he Surge didn't completely wipe his mind, and like he had like some sort of plan. Completely wrong. I gave him too much credit, which I shouldn't have done. I should have learned my lesson. But yeah, no, he 100% just got the same way he got defeated last time. And then I guess like the parallel is supposed to be like, oh man, that's what like Eggman did in the Zombot arc, is that he underestimated or didn't plan properly or something. And whoa, Starline, he thinks he's better than Eggman, but he just fell into the same trap. It's like, okay, what does that mean for anybody? That just means something for Starline. And even then, I don't even know what it means, because he already learned that lesson.
Right, like they keep taking, I'm not a big fan of trying to have villains go through character arcs, but it's honestly just kind of stupid here because Starline keeps going through the same fucking theme over and over again about him learning not to like overestimate and not just relying so much on his ego, trying to show like I will be better than Eggman, but he keeps doing that over and over again. So I'm like forget everything.
What does that mean for anyone?
Huh?
And what does that mean for anyone?
It doesn't, because he ends up like I don't even like no one else even interacts with him for the rest of the book except except for Eggman this entire goddamn story. So I don't even know what was even the point of it.
Well, I mean, just even the rest of the series, the only one who ever like gives him any credit is Zavok. Like the only one who ever like acknowledges like, oh, I get what your character arc is. Here, let me analyze it a little bit. Is Zavok, and so like the only one who would care is him. But again, I still don't know what his deal is. So what does this mean for Starline? Like he's having his little panic attack over there, and the art looks really great. I really like it. Great job to Adam Bryce Thomas. You killed it as usual. Great work. But like I don't know what this means. Who cares? What could this mean for his character? What is it capping off? What is it making him realize? I don't understand. Starline is so confusing to me. Like he's not even like, he doesn't even make me mad anymore. He just confuses me. Like I genuinely don't know what his deal is. Like just on a base sense, like a base, like this is Starline. His character is he wants.
He wants what Eggman wants because he's supposed to be a giant Eggman fanboy. Okay, from my understanding, from what I've listened to from Flynn, is that this was supposed to be a deconstruction of the villain lackey, I think, but I don't know how. Like even with that idea going in, one, why the fuck? I don't know why that needs to be here. Two, I don't even know how that even makes sense. Why you'd even do that, except if you were just trying to redo Snively over again. And even with that, like, what was even the point of coming to the head of this? It's not like anyone was going like, you know, what kind of character I want to see more of? The sniveling sidekick who's sniveling villain sidekick who wants to step up and be the next big bad. I want to see more of those kind of characters. No one wants to see that.
Well, and it's like, again, like he went this like fanboy route of like, okay, what if you had like like a Agent Stone or whatever, where it's like they want, and this was obviously before Agent Stone, but it's like they want to work with Eggman, whereas like everyone else is kind of like, you know, they're unwilling or like they have to, or they're just doing it for money, blah, 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 blah. So what do you do when that happens? But it's like, if that's your thing, then one, you're not really deconstructing that trope as far as I can tell, because this is a different variant of it, you know? So I don't know how that would really add much to the other type of trope or whatever. But regardless, again, if that's his character, why does he like Eggman? I don't get it. Is this just it? Like, it's easy to assume like the people in Sonic's world are just like inherently good. So it's like, okay, what makes this guy want to be like the evil mastermind? And then he talks about like he wants to like have Surgeon Kit replace him as like the hero and villain dynamic. Why does he care about that? What does this mean to the world, which we still don't properly understand? I just don't get this character. It seems like it's very it's not hashtag relatable like Jewel feels like, but it feels like here's a cool character concept, but then like it doesn't fit anywhere in the story, and it's not fleshed out enough to make him like an island of his own. Yep. Like I'm grasping at straws, just trying to figure out what is this guy's deal, and I can never find it.
I don't like, my best theory is just, and honestly, this stretches over into Surgeon Kid too, is that this was Flynn's attempt at trying to be meta and trying to really throw in the idea of trying to have someone like in the story trying to question like the logic of why Eggman is always like in this constant back and forth with Sonic and trying to question like the meta of like all the games that have come before this. But I'm like I understand all the criticisms that you have with this character. Like, you don't understand what his deal is. You don't understand, like, you're trying to figure out why you should be like, how does this character make sense in universe? How, like, you were looking to try to care about them. I absolutely agree with that frustration. My issue with him is I don't get why we need a character like this in this kind of story. when when this kind of meta is, for all intents and purposes, self-inflicted by Flynn. So it's kind of just there. It's kind of just there for the sake of trying to point out the fact. It feels like Starline and Surge the Kid, to certain degrees, are there to try to point out that there are certain tropes in the book, but not really have anything to say or to do with it, and they just end up becoming wastes of characters by the time we get to the end of their stories. Like, even though there is a very likely chance that Starline is not dead by the end of this issue.
Oh yeah.
What would be the point of bringing them back? Like, where do you go with him? Like, Eggman doesn't see him as a threat. He has barely any reason to interact with any of the other villains. Why do we need him? Like, what would even be the point of keeping him around?
Yeah, I know. Like, it's like I said with or like we talked about with a lot of these OCs, is that they're like islands unto themselves. Like, they don't, like, Tangle and Whisper just kind of do their own thing separate from the main cast. Starline is just kind of doing his own thing. He's literally like, even the main villain, who is supposed to be his villain, does not, like, not only doesn't see him as a threat, but legitimately, like, doesn't care if he wants to be a threat, if that makes sense. Like, he's just like, oh yeah, Starline exists, handled, the end. Like, you know, like it, like but yeah, so before we move on to like Surge and Kid and them, I'll just say, one, it was very satisfying seeing, like, these are all superficial things I enjoyed. So we have, like, it was really satisfying seeing Eggman just like bash his stupid fucking face into the ground.
Yeah,
that was nice. From that perspective, just because I don't like him. Two, I think good use of conceptual power scaling is that Eggman brought out the mech that had previously been defeated by a Sonic, a Sonic Hero Super Blast, like the big team attack they can do. And so he brought that out, knowing Starline would basically, if he was on the ropes, he would waste all that energy. And so my brain can go like, oh man, he's using the superpower of teamwork, like from Sonic Heroes. So I know what that attack can do. And whoa, this is the boss he used to fight it. So then when Eggman flips that on him and it's like, yeah, I've learned from that. I realized that if this is what you had created, because you talk about your inventions and XYZ, or I just, I know what it is, or, how it works, then okay, I'll use this one and bait you. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, that's a genuinely smart way to work around it. And while I don't like that this comic is just based on the games, like, it's just like, you've played the games, you know how this stuff works.
Hold on. Let's clarify that. It's not you've played the games. It's that you've played Hero. You're familiar with Heroes, because that really seems like that's the only game that Flynn likes to make references to.
Yeah, kind of. But yeah, like that's, because like SA2 is out the window because of how Shadow acts. But yeah, no, I get what you mean. But yeah, it's like you're supposed to have this kind of like pre-established knowledge. I prefer if it was just in the thing, but whatever. It's a tie-in comic to Forces and the rest of the games, and they're all technically canon. Blah 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 blah. So whatever. But regardless, I thought that was cool. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I mean, it doesn't make me like Eggman anymore because, okay, cool, you got to be smart against the character I hate the most and who is not smart at all. So it doesn't really like boost Eggman anymore for me, No, like that's kind of the disappointing, like bittersweet tinge to it, where it's like, all right, that was a very clever move, Eggman, but like you did it to like the dumbest character in the series, so it doesn't really gain you any points for me. But whatever. That was that. The art looked really cool. I really like that he used the Forces robot. I like seeing the Egg Emperor again, or the Egg Emperor. And yeah, I think that's about it for those two. Starline's definitely not dead, obviously, but I hope he's gone for a while. And if Evan Stanley is the one to bring him back, I hope she can find something new for him to do, because I think Flynn would just have it be like, whoa, now he like Eggman has created, maybe he'd go the route of like Eggman has created his own Eggman, where Starline, maybe he could have been helped, maybe he had self-reflection, obviously, but now he has the same obsession with Eggman in the same degree as Eggman has for Sonic, and now it's broken his mind, and now he is a cackling maniac. Oh no, look what you've created, Eggman. It's a cycle. Like, that's the best I could think would happen.
That's exactly, here's the thing, especially after reading this issue in particular, that is exactly what Flynn, I can say that with 100% confidence, that's exactly what Flynn would do, because he ends up more or less trying to, because like, one, he already is trying to do that with Starline in the first place, because Starline is basically already meant to be just an obsessed evil fanboy who's trying to be Eggman light, so I could totally see him just like trying to have like a whole continuing cycle with them. But on top of that, when it comes to how the heroes end up acting in this book, it really comes off the same way. And it really comes off like it would, like the way you deal with bad guys is not by fighting them. No, you should always try to reach out a hand and try to be nice. Always try to be nice to them. But so yeah, I could totally see Flynn trying to say like, well, when you're evil and bad to people, that just continues a cycle of violence, and then everyone is just going after each other. It's just really pretentious and up its own behind. Which, okay, before we get into Sonic and Tails, I know I want to try making this point later if and when I ever do a video, but I kind of want to do it here for a second. If you don't mind, just small detour, and I want to come back to this. I want to come back to Sonic.
Yeah, go for it. Do whatever you want.
All right. So I got into a conversation about someone with about Steven Universe in particular, and we were talking more about the Pink Diamond Rose Quartz kind of stuff, and that ultimately ended up kind of surging into the whole idea about like when it came to the redemptions that the Diamonds got at the end of the series. Most fans, when they end up seeing that talking point, they'll respond back with, no, Steven didn't forgive them. It was the show. Like, Steven didn't forgive them. He was still critical of the Diamonds, which they're right. The problem is the show ultimately crafts a situation where the only way to fix the problem in the universe is by Steven having to play patty cakes. Steven had to play patty cakes and ultimately trying to trying to give rehabilitation to the Diamonds, so they're willing to help people instead of just looking to kill any gem that they don't like. Now, I still think Steven as a character as a fictional character concept should still get that criticism, because at the end of the day, while the show forces him to do that, he does very little to honestly push back against it, very little to contest or push back against it. He pretty much goes with that mindset for the entire story. So I still think as a character, he deserves that criticism. But the reason I bring this up is, as dumb and honestly kind of toxic it is to say that you should try to change the mind of people that want to kill you, at least it kind of seems like Steven is at least the whole idea is that the characters are trying, that Steven is actively trying to change the minds of people. What the fuck is going on? When it comes to Sonic and Tails, which one do you want to start with, Sonic or Tails?
We could do Tails just because I think it'd be easier to get done.
Okay, so here's the thing. I like good boy characters, but what is with almost like most of the interactions that Tails has with Kid? Like, oh, your tails are really cool. I know you're trying to kill me right now, but I'm gonna give you a bunch of compliments. And hey, maybe instead of trying to kill me, maybe we can be friends, or just compare. Like, what was that?
Yeah. So here's what I'm trying to think of is like, because I need to go back and look at it. I mean, you just read it. Is there any lead into it where like Tails can sense that there's something wrong with Kit, that like he needs help, or is it literally just he immediately goes to like pacifism and trying to help?
There is one frame. So when you
I see it. I found it. Yeah. So he's like, wow, your control is impressive or whatever. Like he's having fun or whatever. And then he's like, you like them? And then Tails kind of realizes like, oh yeah, I can like talk to him and stuff. Right.
Right.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, I just don't like, I get what he's trying to do, which is that, so Tails is, again, if you know the games, his backstory is that, he was bullied for his two tails. Sonic came along, kind of, helped him out or like, inspired him. And then he realized, he didn't feel like a freak anymore. The XYZ, now he can stand up for himself. Mm-hmm. So he's trying to do the same thing with Kit, where he's like, well, your water power is really cool. He's like, well, I didn't get these. He's like, no, but even still, you're controlling it. That's got to be worth something. Like that's really cool skill or whatever. And it's like, fine. But again, I just don't get why. I don't know enough about this version of Tails to know why, like, one, that would matter. And two, it just, I don't know. It feels very like he read the script, like he knew that this character could be reasoned with.
Mm-hmm.
because you know, you're right. It's like okay, Sonic's thing is like a whole other can of worms. But with Tails, it's like, okay, I'm not necessarily against this idea of like helping out Kitsuname, especially because at least Kit seems to like at least be somewhat, you know, feel like her I keep wanting to say her. His conflict seems to be more like he's still like kind of unsure of who he is, and he's just following Surge because like she's being domineering over him. So if there's anyone you could help in this situation, it is Kit, but I just don't feel anything for it. So I don't know if you can help me understand that.
Well, one of the reasons why is because we haven't, because even though we've been given the hashtag relatable backstory with these two, they have really done and shown no reason to have any type of sympathy or remorseful, any type of sympathy towards them, because they haven't really shown any remorse or any type of willingness to like, I just want to have I just want to have either like a peaceful or not just trying to make the world. There's nothing about them that's meant to be sympathetic. Nothing about their actions or their characters that make them come off as sympathetic or something that you can probably connect to. They're
other than like that, they're victims,
right? But the problem here is, as an adult, you kind of realize you don't get to continue to. The second you start trying to make more victims is when you lose the right to lose the sympathy of being a victim. And the problem with these two is that, like, I'm actually going to push back a little bit on you about the whole idea of like Kid is just going along with Surge's plan, because this whole convoluted plan about them trying to usurp Starline and going through all this crap and trying to blow up the world and everything. That was his plan. That wasn't Surge's. If anything,
that's true. Yeah, I haven't read it in a while, so yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't. Unfortunately, have an encyclopedic memory of this series.
Well, yeah, then it just makes even less sense.
Yeah. So I'm like, and especially at this moment where it's like, yeah, they are actively looking to try to hurt and kill people. Why should we feel sorry for them at this? Why should we try to feel sorry for them at this point? Especially when they had a chance to stop this problem, but they decided to no. Let's continue to try making this worse. So it's kind of like, why should you feel sorry for these two, to be honest, besides the fact that they're cute?
Yeah, but I know. So, did you have a different type of complaint for that fight, as far as like on Tails' end, like because you were going into like the good boy angle, and I kind of changed it.
No, we pretty much covered it. The whole idea was like you said before. Tails' whole thing was about like he was trying to compliment him and trying to calm him down after all that stuff. But you don't know this version of Tails, nor has that really been established character trait of him, especially in this branch. So it's kind of hard to really write that off. But I'm seeing this as Flint. Tails has a script. He knows that Flint that he can be talked down. So instead of actually trying to make sure that they deal with them properly, then try giving them some type of counseling, it's more about, hey, even though you're trying to kill me, maybe if I play to your ego, you won't try to kill me anymore. Like it's that kind of crap. And I'm like, why are we trying to do the best reason I can think of for someone trying to do something like this is that I feel like they know that they're writing for kids and they don't want to have maybe they don't want to have stories about how kids to see like, oh, this person is trying to beat up another person. This character has like an in-universe bully. Maybe we shouldn't try. But they try dealing with it by trying to make friends with them. So maybe I should do the same thing too. But the counter argument I have to that is, do we really want to teach kids that placating the people who are abusing them is that the best way to deal with abusers and bullies is to placate and try to compliment them?
Right. So, yeah, well, and I think like if that is the case of what they're going for, it'd be like, well, they're trying to. It's less of like make them feel good and more like trying to relate. See, like, oh, hurting person or hurting people who hurt people are hurting or something or have been hurt, and like that's not always the case, obviously, but that is the case with Kid, to an extent, or definitely. So it's like maybe that's it, but like I don't know, like to me, it just comes off very bland. Like I sent the scene to my friend, and he got back to me, and he was just like, "Why does Sonic talk like a narrator or like an exposition machine? What happened to his like charm and like charisma?"
Because that wasn't Sonic, that was Flynn.
Yeah, and that's what I think the biggest thing for me with Tails is that it doesn't feel like a character thing. It just feels like we're trying to express this idea of like, look at Surgeon Kit, like they were really hurting. You read their story and like you feel really bad for them, right? You like them. So it's cool that Tails can immediately see it. It's like, well, one, I don't like them because they're bad people and also they're not likable or cool or interesting. But two, it's like, yeah, this version of Tails doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care.
Well, so, and it's not surprising. Tails has like besides like just doing bare things to keep the plot moving forward, we haven't really gotten any chance to actually spend time and learn who Tails is as a character in this. He's exceptionally underdeveloped in this branch. Like besides ramming the ship into Neo Metal, losing the antidote, and cowering in fear at the end of the zombie arc, what has Tails done over the course? What has Tails done that's meant to give us insight into who he is as a character, his motivation, his worldview, his perspective?
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
Like I've read through these issues multiple times. I got nothing. He's the most underdeveloped character here, and that's one of the reasons why these two, really you can say Starline too, but especially when it comes to Surgeon Kit, we're always going to be shallow antagonists for them to deal with. And I pointed this out like almost a year ago at this point, Sonic and Tails aren't developed enough to get proper rivals, because in order for rivals to make sense, that central character has to have both worldviews and motivations that those villains can be proper contrast to. Sonic doesn't sound like Sonic isn't really meant to be a coherent worldview for this character that's meant to be contrasted. It's just meant to be, Sonic is just being used as a mouthpiece for Flynn. Tails being wild has gotten no character development, so just throwing him against his own personal villain isn't going to mean anything. And that's also when it comes to, and that really ends up showing up in the fight scene in particular, because I knew this fight was just going to be underwhelming because Tails, like not just the character stuff, but just on a physical level, because Tails is not a fighter in this universe. He's never given any kind of weapons. He's never really shown to have any type of proper fighting styles other than at best just kind of being a support to Sonic, like when it comes to doing like combo spin dashes with them. And I'm like, there's no way if Kit is able to fight at his fullest that Tails wouldn't be able to beat him. And my problem here is not that it's obvious that Tails is going to have to win, but there's nothing both from a character or from an in-universe reason, in-universe mechanics of Tails' own powers that would allow to that. So we have to just more or less just make Kit get completely debuffed so we can hit this lame theme about how we should be nice and kind to people who are hurting, and that's how we can end up saving and defeating them. And that's what ends up redeeming. It's the more toxic version of Takano Jutsu. And when it comes to the Tails fight in particular, I'm sorry I'm rambling a little bit, but
no, you're fine. I wanted to hear your thoughts. So
yeah, no, the Tails fight just comes off the Tails fight is honestly the worst of the three, because at least with Sonic and Scourge, there's at least some amount of spectacle and speed lines, which Adam does an amazing job with, and Starline and Eggman getting to slam Starline into the ground like Hulk is amazing, but there's nothing really impressive about Tails and Kit fighting one another. Tails is not really shown to be a fighter, nor has anything to really show off or to make his fights seem impressive on any level, both on an emotional or on a physical level. And Kit more or less has to be completely depowered for this idea to even work, for this concept to even work. Like, for example, why does he run out? Like, I know they just kind of say this in the book, but I'm like, how does he just run out of water?
Yeah, did they ever establish that it's like, I mean, you would assume it's limited, maybe, but I mean, I don't know, it's magic, science, or whatever. So yeah, like I don't know why it ran out.
I don't. Yeah, no. No, I'm pretty sure this is like the first time they actually introduced that for him. Introduced that because let's be honest, if Kit was actually being allowed to be competent and use his abilities properly, uses and was actually cognizant of how much water he had, and that was actually a mechanic in the universe, and he was allowed to be competent, that wouldn't have happened and Tails had to lose. So they probably introduced this mechanic here. I'm totally willing to go back to Imposter Syndrome. Maybe I missed a line where they said that, but this really seems like the first time that this has ever been an issue for him. And then just boom, he's lost power, and now we need to introduce. Now Tails needs to be able to just jump on his back, hit a power switch, and just turn him off. Which, why does he have a power switch that just turns off his entire body?
Yeah, I don't know. That seems like a bad idea. Yeah. I like it. Well, and it's I guess like if we're looking at this from like Flint's perspective, it's the way to like beat the bad guy without having to like physically defeat him, right? You know, like, you know, Tails isn't gonna like whack him in the back of the neck and knock him out, which I wouldn't think anyone would care, but like it's very strange.
But why put him in a fight if you're not going to do like this? Is also, I would also argue this is worse because as much as I am very much as much as I'm not a big fan of making his Tails an actual weapon, like an actual like fighting mechanic for Tails to use, it's better than him just being able to jump on the character's back and just hit a power switch. Like, how lame is that? Like, they just have
how did he figure it out? I forgot. Did they say, or did he just see it? And he's like, oh, I guess I can do this.
No, he just jumps on.
Yeah, so it's like it'd be one thing if he had to figure that out, right? Like, even if it was like a little lame that it exists, like at the very least you could have it like tie into something. Like, I don't know. Like, that's my big problem here is, again, like I'm not as like hard on like structuring an action scene for these like Sonic comics as I am. It's just like, all right, just give me a reason to care. And if you want to make it simple, if you want it to be like a one-page attack, or if you want it to be like a psychological thing, like I'm fine with that. Like, I don't really need like a combat encounter of like back and forth. But it's like they don't do anything. Like, the character stuff isn't there. And then just like the simple like 1 + 1 = this, I'm gonna use, you know, I'm gonna figure this little neat thing out. It's just not there either. And then, you know, the spectacle, like you said, it can't even carry it, because there's just nothing here. So right. It was just completely just threw me off. I was just like, and this is like, maybe this will make me sound like an asshole, but I just don't like how like every character now, or at least in this, you know, story, everyone's just like we're pure-hearted good boys. We want to look out for what's best for you, the villain. Like, how's your mental health doing? Like, I don't get it. Where is this coming from?
I think. Okay, so this is, I actually ended up reading back through issue 1 a little while ago, and this is actually kind of maddening. So basically, Flynn is trying to go with the idea that everyone in this universe, except the villains, are good, wholesome people that can't do anything, that are just all looking at what's best and looking out for each other. And to be clear, I'm actually not 1,000% against that. Like, yeah. Let's be honest. That's the Pokemon universe at the end. Like, save for the villains, that's basically the Pokemon universe.
Yeah, you can make that work easily.
Yeah, but unlike in the Pokemon universe, they actively go out of their way to make it seem like even the heroes are more willing to just try to make sure and take care of the villain's well-being, even when that villain is trying to kill them. And I'm not saying that there isn't a way to make that seem endearing, but you can't do that. But the best way to do that is when you show like the hero is so definitively stronger than the main, definitively stronger and has completely either can or has neutralized that the villain. Then you can do that kind of stuff. Here, it just makes them look needlessly good boy just to hit this very sanctimonious and oblivious theme that Flynn is trying to push.
Yeah, I mean, it's why I talk about, like, I'm fine with the issue 200 one, where it's like Eggman lives in like one building, his army's entirely gone, and he just like is crying on the floor, ripping out his mustache because we broke his brain. Sure, you can go live in your mental asylum with your stupid nephew or whatever. What are you gonna do about it? And it's like, yeah, it's like, whereas like this, it's like Sonic and Tails, like Sonic, you know, especially Sonic, he makes all these grand statements about like how he's gonna handle it or whatever. But it's like, one, you're not handling it now, and like we'll get to him in a second, and we can finish up. I mean, I think we're mostly done with Kitten Tails.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like Sonic. What are you talking about? You're talking like you're Superman. But every arc, I see innocent people suffering horrendously, and then you're just like, lol. But like, it's okay because like eventually other people, eventually maybe the bad guys can enjoy a nice summer breeze. What are you talking about? Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And again, yeah, we pretty much shifted over. I think, yeah, we pretty much shifted over. And this is what I was just talking about in particular, where it's just like, at least, again, it's like what I said before, at least Steven, for as much as I don't like Steven, as much as I don't like what Steven Universe was going for, at least Steven knew he had to do something to actively get these guys to stop being villains. Sonic is just, Sonic, well, let's be honest, Flynn is just trying to write Sonic to do as little as possible just for the sake of arguing for, just for the sake of trying to say like, oh yeah, he's for everyone's freedom, even for the freedoms of the people who are trying to kill, kill or make other people suffer.
Yeah, because like here's the thing, I don't care if he's for people trying to kill him, like whatever, that's his right. But
Right.
like, but like other people, it's like Sonic. Did you forget about Cream? Did you forget about just all these awful things that he's done to people, all the suffering and trauma your friends have probably gone through, and you're just like, yeah, but like if I were to like, because here's the thing, he doesn't say like I'm not going to put them in jail, but he definitely doesn't argue for putting them in jail. He argues for, I hope they'll eventually get better, and then they can live their life too. Sonic, every one of these people should be in life in prison.
Okay, I'm gonna go and just say this right now. Okay. I'm gonna make another comparison here. So I've talked to you about this before, but the best comparison here is Luffy. Is Luffy from One Piece, because Luffy, like Sonic, is all about is all about freedom, all about trying to help. Is all about like having people, trying to help people find their dreams. All about trying to, especially his friends in particular, trying to live their best lives, all that fun stuff. And the thing is, the reason I bring him up in particular is because, like Sonic, because I've seen some people try to make this point here, it would be really awkward and honestly kind of exceptionally out of character for Luffy to be going, "Hey, I just beat up this bad guy, put him in jail." Like that's not his character.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Right, but the issue and the problem here is that, unlike One Piece, where one, there are actual adults in the universe who do end up doing that stuff, they don't try to actively focus on Luffy saying, "Oh, I'm just gonna beat up these guys and just hope they end up and someday they'll get better and not try to be as much of a problem." They don't try to actively take that concept of wanting everyone to be as free as possible, and
they just don't. Oda just doesn't put Luffy in that situation where that would be a problem.
Right.
Like that's why it works. Like you can have Sonic be this way, but the fact that you have him giving dissertations is what makes him a problem. Like, and here's the thing, is that if Luffy, I don't know, if Luffy, after he beat Arlong, like if someone was just like let's say the Navy didn't show up or whatever, spoilers for old One Piece or whatever, he beats the villain and they come take him away. But what, like if let's say they didn't show up, right? And like they were just like, what do we do about him? What do we do about Arlong, Luffy? I highly doubt he would even have an opinion. I think he would be like, Nami, what do you want to do? And then Nami would be like, kill him, throw him in jail, do whatever. And he'd be like, okay, yeah, do it. Go for it.
No, that's exactly what would happen.
He doesn't care. Like he only cares about his friends. So it's like, if they want to do something, then fine. And if they don't want to do something, then he'll fight for it. Whatever it is.
Right. And the thing is, if people still want to go, because I've seen a couple of people try to make this argument, if they're trying to go with the idea that Sonic is like Sonic is just like, he just does what he thinks is right in the moment all the time, fine. One, you can't. If you're going to go with that mindset, he doesn't get to give complete dissertations about complete monologues and explanations about why he has this. The more he does this isn't just I do what I do in the moment. This is he has explicit worldview, and he is looking to act on that. But the problem here is the biggest issue here is literally almost every character, just in the game cast alone, almost every character should have butt heads with them at this point if they were allowed to actually be characters with their own worldviews and perspectives.
Well, and again, if we're going to the Luffy comparison, some of his friends have, and his response has been, "Lol, I don't care." So it's like,
yeah.
So it's like you can't even compare him to that. Like Shadow wants to do something about Eggman. Sorry, we have to give him a chance. His right to live is worth more than your right to not want to suffer under him. Sorry. Like,
yep.
What are you talking about?
And the worst part, and then we have SBO who ends up kind of calling him out about this around like issue 24, but that never gets followed up. I don't even think Sonic and SBO have interacted since.
No, the only way it gets followed up on is he remembers it when Zavok's like, "Oh, I'm gonna do bad stuff, you idiot," and then he remembers all the people who were like, "Yeah, they're gonna do bad stuff, you idiot," and he's like, "Haha, fuck my friends." I don't care what they want.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's the only way it gets resolved is that it's related back to that scene with Zavok. It's not a good look.
No.
And it's like, yeah, it's crazy how simple it is. Like, it's not even like this concept is inherently bad because, again, One Piece does it and has gotten away with it for years. The villains in One Piece are atrociously terrible people. Like, they're bad, bad, bad. And just like in Sonic, we see excruciating detail of what the trauma and pain they have caused upon people we not only like, but just like, people in general. And since it's Oda, like, those reactions are very visceral,
Mm-hmm.
But like, we don't have to worry about it because they just don't put Luffy in that situation. And that's all you have to do.
Yeah. Just literally have Sonic beat the bad guys up, then Sonic just moves on. Sonic moves on because, again, he just doesn't care. He's just like, let life be whatever, and that's fine. And then you have the adults come in and deal with this stuff. Here's the worst part about the Luffy comparison. Luffy actively does not call himself a hero. His whole, like, Oda writes him to be chaotic good, to use alignment terms for a second. As much as Oda does write Luffy to be chaotic good, his actions, his worldview in story is meant to be chaotic neutral. He does things because he wants to. He does things because he wants to. He gets benefit out of it, or he does things because someone he immediately knows is connected to it and connected to the situation, and he does what he can. And he does what he can to help. Sonic, meanwhile, is meant to be a goddamn hero. He's meant to be someone who is looking to help and fix problems as much as possible and trying to make sure the world is as great a place as possible. Why would you want a hero to have this kind of mindset? And
yeah, that's what I consistently think of, like, just like as a baseline thing is, regardless of if you think like this is an interesting concept, this is a XYZ. Here's the thing, just think about it this way. What is likable, I guess, about this mindset? Like, when you break it down, regardless of if you think it's interesting, what is likable about it? Like, if I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm a big Sonic boy, what about this would make me just like Sonic? Like, think he's cool, or like think he's a good person? I like, that's what I don't understand. Like, what's inspirational about it to me as the reader, of having someone say, I'm gonna cause problems and harm and torture and kill, and then Sonic goes, huh, well, you know what? I don't care. Do it again. I'll stop you later. And it's like, but you're not Superman. What you're saying is that people will get hurt in the process. And that's fine, as long as I eventually beat you. It's like, that's not good enough, Sonic. You're not Superman. You cannot just come in and one-shot these guys. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, like, funny enough, that entire arc ends up like the line that we're talking about. That is from, I believe, issue 44. That entire arc undercuts that mindset, because the whole idea about it is that Sonic ends up being like this winter location for a bit, and then the Zeti are just tearing through multiple cities, hurting. And if I remember correctly, I think Flynn even said in his podcast they even killed some people in that process.
Oh, they would have had to. I showed some scenes where there's one where they release Samam or whatever, and Zavok's like, you don't just consume food, you consume all, like that kind of thing. And then you just have like, whatever, the crazy one, he's just like shooting like laser beams from the sky and like raining it down on people. So like they're definitely killing people. Like there's no way they're not. That's their whole thing. Like they don't take land and then like create like a dictatorship. No, they conquer and destroy everything, and now this is my domain. So they've killed people 100%. And like if you're saying this, like Flynn has confirmed that, like, yeah, that's what was meant to be implied, and that just makes it even worse, because that means that it's not just like me looking at like the, there, it could be something where it's like I'm looking at the in-universe, what these characters have said, what is implied, but then like, I don't know, you go to the author and they say no, but they didn't actually do that. It's like, well, they would do that. It's like, yeah, but you didn't see it, and I'm the author. I say that didn't happen. It's like, no, if he confirmed it, then that just makes it even worse.
And it actually ends up getting worse than that, because remember, during the whole fight, like the only way, even if they weren't getting hurt, let's go and just say none of that stuff happened, that we end up seeing the first thing that the Zeti end up doing in that arc is just magically showing up at the restoration base, and they just end up going there. They don't even end up hurting anyone. They're just on their way to getting to the base, and Sonic immediately ends up showing up to stop them. He barely pulls out a win against the Six. Because remember, he ends up like at the beginning, he's kind of like having a little bit of fun beating them up, but then by the end, if it wasn't for Tails, he would have gotten completely wrecked by Zavok.
Yeah, so it's like it makes Sonic look even worse that he's not like, I know I can handle any threat, and if I can't, my friends will help me. Because that's how it's been going this whole time. Like you needed Silver to save the Zombots. Like, or to cure the Zombots, you needed all of your friends to get all those Chaos Emeralds. And so, like, he doesn't even invoke, like, power of friendship. He just says, I'll do it. You fucking asshole.
And then, oh, God. So, basically, not only is he's putting both his friends as well as other civilians' lives on the line for his own worldview.
Yeah, because he'll handle it eventually.
Once one of his friends comes in to back him up.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, is I don't think a single time in this entire story has Sonic just won on his own, which is fine. Like, I don't care. Like, there's a lot of Sonic characters, but like, oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, keep going. I think I have a way to tag it back around, but keep going.
Yeah, he hasn't won a single fight. So again, this mindset doesn't make sense. Where is this coming from? You haven't done anything alone, and this is Sonic Forces Sonic. So again, you were gonna die, and Eggman also took over the planet and like 90% of it, and you did not win. And the point of that game, as cringy as it was, is like, oh man, Infinite, you don't have love and friendship, and it's like the Sonic doesn't even invoke that. He's just like, I'll do it. Like, oh my gosh, he's awful.
Yeah, and
what a terrible person.
So here's the thing: he has won one fight. And I got to be honest, it's, while visually impressive, it's also the most frustrating and maddening fight. It's the reason why we went on this whole rant. Sonic versus Scourge.
Oh, yeah. That's Surge.
Huh?
Surge.
Yes. Wait, what did I say?
You keep saying Scourge.
Let's be honest, she's Scourge. Let's okay, I'm going to call her Surge because I know some people get a little offended, like, no, they're different. No, they're not. But fine, this is Surge, the one fight that he has been able to win. That, as far as I can tell, he only gets up by technicality because she just ends up getting kicked. She ends up. Oh God, I'm looking at this now. No, she doesn't even.
I was gonna say she just goes YOLO, and then like the room shakes and she falls.
Yep.
Yeah.
God, so no, that, like, I could technically count that for him, but I'm like, that is a sorry win to get in order to try to back up this mindset.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't count it. I mean, I would count it in the sense of like if we're just like general overview of the series, and it's like, sure, he's the victor. But as far as like, for this argument of like what his mindset is, it's like, yeah, you didn't even win. The fight didn't end, or like you didn't end the fight.
Surge just basically gave up.
Yeah, and then like a bunch of interference.
Yeah. Okay, you want to talk about this fight in particular? Because like,
yeah, go for it.
The main reason, like, if I can do the intro for this one, the main reason we were talking about all the ethical dilemma stuff, the philosophy stuff that they're trying to do with Sonic in this book, is because the Surge versus the Surge versus Sonic fight is basically just meant to be a way for Flynn to try to talk about this worldview in the book with these two characters as the opposing arguments.
But the action's window dressing.
Yeah,
which that's what he used to do a lot more. Which I appreciate that he at the very least didn't just have like a scene where they just have a back and forth and it doesn't mean anything because he's not very good at that. So at least he stuck to what the point was, but it wasn't a good point.
No.
But yeah, go ahead.
No, I just kind of just want to talk about Surge. I wanted to talk about like not only Surge as a character for this fight, but how. Well, let me just start from the top. I've been complaining about how nonsensical Surge and Kit's motivation has been, and it feels like Flynn, I think at some point realized that it was, or I'm trying to figure out like at what stage did he decide to have Surge go, you know what, I need to go after Sonic. I need to go after Sonic because I need to beat him because he's the root of Doctor's Starline and Eggman's motivations. I'm like, why start? Like, first off, like in universe, I'm like, why start with him? Why not? Like, why start with him? Why not? Why start with him versus the other two? Especially when you had one literally in your hands and you could have ended him without remorse. And it's not like that. You can't pull oh, I wanted to see him suffer for, like, they've never been sadistic. Neither one of these two have ever been shown to be sadistic. They've been, especially Surge, has been nothing but impulsive and erratic. Why wouldn't stopping his brain and be your first priority?
Yeah.
So I'm already kind of calling bull on that. But let's say that this was the point. This was the point. Imagine crafting two characters, spending. You know what? No, I'm going to say it. Spending 4 months of content just to build up the idea of trying to just to use them as fodder, just to use spending all this time. No, not just 4 months. Almost a year of prep just to get these characters to be fodder to have one of them just turn into a straw man for Sonic to monologue his philosophy too.
Yeah, that's the big thing is like this is issue 50. This is the one where like Flynn was like, it's all coming together, baby. It's time. The setup's been done. And it's like what it ultimately ends up being, like that's the big thing for me is like what this ultimately ends up being, right, is that Sonic gets to, I guess, stand his ground, and I guess that's his big character moment. Even though, I mean, no, never mind. Characters in the universe have been challenging him on this, so whatever, that's fine. That's his big thing, is he's going to stand his ground. And then for the other thing is that Surge, a brand new character that has only just been introduced and like whose motivations have just been established as far as even in real time today, like in a single day, the goal is to then just set up a new villain, like just another one, like not even one that like particularly like parallels Sonic or like can create a certain amount of threat. There you go. That's just it. That's all we did was Sonic ended up answering the question that's kind of been posed throughout, mostly probably due to fan response, whatever. If you're reading it later, you might not know that. So he gets to answer this kind of moral dilemma and double down. And then this other character just kind of gets to be a new villain. And I guess I just have to hope that like the Evan Stanley will be self-aware enough to like address that like, all right, Sonic, well, you just kind of like made her madder and like more vicious. Now can we start discussing how terrible you are? No? Okay. Like that's what I'm sitting here. I'm just like, what's the big, whoa, guys, it's all coming together. Look what we established. Because I don't see it. Except for another villain. And then we wasted Starline, who again has never accomplished or done anything interesting. And the way he was able to get his big moment here, he was like, I had it all planned. No, this was my big moment. It's like your big moment was literally that you plugged in a USB drive and then like, your lackeys fought one Metal Sonic. And it's like, yes, it was all planned out. It's like, okay, whatever, go away. You know what Snively did when he tried to take over the Eggman Empire? He had a
What?
bunch of robots that Eggman used to have, which were like the infiltrator bots, and he had them set up all over the base and in different locations. And so Eggman's like, "Oh, there he is," and then like they find him, and then the robots are set to self-destruct. So now there's a bunch of explosions going off inside the Death Egg and in different points. So Eggman has no clue where this guy is. Then he tries to set about disarray amongst the ranks of the Eggman people by like leaving a message that says like, "Oh man, Sonic broke in and now everyone's, the doctor's dead. So like you're all free." So he's trying to like create distrust and craziness. And then he goes in to like get Hope and he like grabs a giant mecha robot so that the Iron Queen can use it to fight Eggman. Like he had like quite a few different plans that like actually made sense and like were pretty clever, and then Eggman has to like round up all his people and like get them back in line, and it's like, and he has to like actually fight and like come up with a clever solution to beat Snively and with like his creative genius. But then Starline's thing is, we'll rush in. If Metal Sonic shows up, you fight him, and then I'll just like go in and plug in a USB drive. We did it! Hooray! It's like get out of here, go away.
I don't even.
This is what he learned. This was his big. This is what all the characterization was leading to. Look how far Starline has come. Oh my gosh. Okay,
4 years. We spent 4 years to this. So we had imposter syndrome. We had bad guys. We had a handful, like at least like we had a handful of the issue. We had the Chow Race arc, which was, let's be honest, the only reason, which was also trying to do stuff with Starline. We also, well, let's be honest, the only reason the Zombot arc ends up being that long is because of Starline. If you cut Starline out, and if you cut,
he's the reason the Zeddy show up.
Right. If you cut Starline out, you could have easily, that arc could have been 10 issues. 3 if Shadow didn't have it. 3 or 4 if Flynn didn't dedicate himself to the idea that Shadow had to get taken out of that arc. So pretty much most of the Zombot arc, so a good chunk of the Zombot arc, and then 12 issues, all to build up to this pretty decent fight between him and Eggman, all for him to just kind of just get thrown around and then just get buried in a bunch of rubble. Hopefully that we don't have to deal with anymore.
Yeah, which I would assume that Flynn did that just in case, like, because, he seems to understand that he's not the head writer anymore. So he probably just did that where it's like, if Stanley wants to do something with him, there's your out. But if she doesn't, there you go. You don't have to deal with it. Like, that seems pretty clear, because otherwise you would show him at the end being like, "Oh, doctor, you think you've beaten me now," or blah, 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 or, you would see what happened to him. But yeah, I think he just did that because he's like, well, I'm not the head writer anymore. I don't want Evan to have to deal with whatever I have set up here. So, like, if she wants to bring back Starline, she can, but otherwise I finished up his character, I guess.
Stanley, if you ever listen to this, please keep him dead. There's nowhere to go with him. He is done. Like he's not a good villain. He's not a good contrast or challenge for Eggman in any way. Like, where are you going to go with Eggman's character by giving him an antagonist that isn't like one of, like, what's the point of giving an antagonist an antagonist? Like, I feel like there are a couple of things you end up missing the point. You have to miss the point in order to do that. So let Starline be done. And just start making other antagonists. Just focus on that. And
usually when you to me, the way you're allowed to do antagonist is that you've earned it. Like, you've spent long enough doing it with the main heroes that you're like, you know what? Let's mix it up. Let's throw in something else for a different character to deal with. Like that. Like, you do it when, like, the formula, because, we're not all One Piece where we can go to a new place and fight new people. Sure. So it's like, if you're just stuck with Eggman, at least have a bunch of stories with Sonic and Eggman first between them specifically, not just like from afar or whatever, which in universe they've only had one because it would be the Zombot arc. And even then they talk like once and that's it. So there's no like fight or anything. So it's like, weigh your options and like do that long enough. And once you've established your version of Sonic, your version of Eggman, once you've established a status quo of here's how they interact, then you can throw a wrench in the works. But the problem is that Flynn has been throwing wrenches in from, like, the go. or not, like post Metal Sonic arc, he just keeps throwing in these other characters and these other things that are distracting from getting me invested in the core premise.
Mm-hmm.
Really, you could say the same thing for the Metal Sonic arc. Like we started with Metal Sonic instead of, Eggman.
Yeah. Oh, actually, no. Yeah, you're right. And there was, so it's like, honestly, like, when has Eggman been allowed to be like the proper antagonist for an arc?
Yeah, he was only that for the Zombot arc, and as far as like their interactions, like the whole point was that it went awry, so eventually it just kind of became the Zeddy arc. But then you also have the aspect of like Sonic and Eggman have like one conversation, and like that's about the extent of like their interactions as like hero and villain, and it's like that's not good enough.
Nope.
Like you can't just expect me to be like, yeah, this Eggman is like the game Eggman, and like we have all these kooky adventures that I remember as a fan. It's like, no, you have to make your own. You have to get me invested in this version, or at least to me. Like I don't know, maybe other people can more easily do that, but I cannot. Like you have to make me care about this version.
No, I completely agree. And so here's the thing, like they've actually had technically 4 conversations up to this point, but there's a reason why you only remember 1, because the other 3 barely even function, barely do anything for either character. Like you get the first one, the first proper interaction Sonic and Eggman have is in the middle of the Zombot arc, where Sonic is trying to talk Eggman and turn it back into Tinker. And that ultimately just doesn't go anywhere. But that's really like the only time where they actually seem to be like properly have something resembling a hero-villain dynamic. The second time is near the end where they're both on Angel Island, and that's when Eggman tries going Joker, where he tries having a Joker moment where he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna play on your guilt and insecurities about all the stuff that's happened before and get into your mind." But I'm like, but the problem is, Flynn went, "Joke's on you. This Sonic doesn't have any morals or any form of guilt. He just does whatever he wants to so he can feel good. He just does whatever he wants to so he can live by his own worldview at the expense of everyone else." So that doesn't go anywhere. Then the third one where Sonic comes back from his two-page amnesia in Soul Dimension. Sonic says, "Hey, miss me," and then Eggman just scurries off. And the last time was right at the beginning of the Zeddy arc, where they're fighting.
Started the Zeddy,
with the whole Baltimore military reference again, and that doesn't go anywhere. So yeah, they haven't been allowed. Like we haven't properly established how Eggman is supposed to be an antagonist in this book, which I'd be fine with. If I would honestly be okay with if they were at least willing to establish any other villains. Like this is actually something I disagree with you a little bit. I'm not saying this needs to be One Piece. I don't want it to be One Piece. But this is meant to be an adventure setting where they're allowed to just go to different locations on a whim. They can and Stanley did try introducing that possum guy. They tried introducing that possum guy, and he's trying to turn him into a villain, trying to turn him into some form of a boss villain. And I'm like, you want to do that, fine, but you need to be establishing, one, how these guys are supposed to be a threat, and secondly, more importantly, how are they supposed to be a proper challenge or contrast for your hero? If you're not going to do that with Eggman, you need to do that with someone for Sonic, because at the end of the day, this is his book. But they seem to just like not want to do that at all, but they don't really seem to want to do anything other than to continue to hit this really bankrupt moral philosophy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, fair. Yeah, because the possum guy, like that's the thing we've talked about, where it's like every time they introduce like a new villain, they all really bad. But then what they often do, like with the Zeddy, like my friend, he's just like, how am I ever supposed to take the Zeddy seriously again when they lost when they had infinite power with the Chaos Emeralds? And not only did they get infinite power, but they were literally handed a world invasion on a silver platter. Like they didn't even have to work for it. And you still lost. Why would I ever think that you're going to be a threat to anyone?
He's right. Exactly. Then they also end up doing the same thing. Like let's just push. Then we just end up pushing Rough and Tumble to the side a little bit. They're just supposed to be Die, Rocksteady, and Bebop. Just push them to the side.
Yeah, they're moved.
The possum guy, who again I said Evan is trying to set up as a villain, But the problem is, again, we end up establishing him as they never properly establish how he's supposed to be a physical threat, other than just he can kind of detect when SBO is kind of moving around as a ninja. But he, unlike so instead of establishing him as a proper mob boss, which they're clearly trying to go with for his aesthetic, they don't really give him a proper mob or any type of followers underneath them to really show how intimidating, how much of a threat he can be. Like,
well, I don't know what his existence means for anyone, because again, we don't have any world building. So he's just like some mob boss guy, but I don't know anyone in these like cities to be like, oh no, he's a mob boss in Central City. How's that going to conflict with this piece of information or these civilians? No, it's just all our main characters. And then Evan hasn't bothered to establish who is he a villain to. Is he everybody, I guess? Like, nobody has any particular beef with him other than like, he abused the Chow. And then we settled that. The end.
And it's not like he's like, that's like his motivation is to like abuse Chow. It was really just more like,
yeah, it was just a thing he did.
Yeah, it was just a thing he did just so he could profit off the races. And then he leaves with no other motivation or like any, like, what about him? Like, there's no clear motivation or concept behind him that would work as a proper antagonist for anyone else in the cast. So the next time he comes back up, they're going to have to basically retcon in a motivation and threat concept to him in order for him to be even worthy of being an antagonist for this cast, antagonist for anyone in this cast. Which I'm like, why introduce your antagonist before establishing how they're supposed to be an antagonist?
Yeah, it's so strange. I don't understand how they comprehend this like comic working. Like, it really feels like a lot of it really is just like, whoa, it's the characters I know doing things. I like those characters. The end. And it's like, that's not good enough for me. Whoa, there's a cool possum guy and he's got a gun and he's a mob boss. It's like, okay, and what does that mean for anything? Well, don't you want to see Sonic and friends fight a cool possum mob boss? Not particularly.
These guys have fought gods. You're going to have to try a lot better than that.
Yeah, like I don't understand. I like it. The IDW very much perplexes me. Like, with Reboot, I feel like I got like a decent grasp on like, this is probably what we were going for. Like, we kind of shot for the moon, and then we were taken out before we could really bank on anything. So it's just a bunch of half ideas. And it's like, I can see where it's like, you could maybe be setting this up or this thing, even if it fails. But with IDW, I legitimately don't know what I don't know what the appeal of the comic is supposed to be, other than that, like, I like Sonic and I want to see him do anything. And then, like, also, like, all these OCs are, like, relatable and they're cute and they have mental disorders and problems and they're deep or whatever. And even then, I don't know if even that's what they're going for. Like, I don't get it. I don't get the comic.
I don't get it either. This comic really, I'm going to be honest, you pretty much just hit on the head with the fact of it really just seems like this comic only really exists because it's meant to be a spin. It's just meant to be like, it's basically shovelware, the comic. It's just meant to be something that's meant to be supplementary material for between releases, between like video game releases, just to keep the fan base happy and something for them to latch onto. But the problem is like nothing really, but if you're not like a hardcore fan who's just desperate for Sonic content, who's just desperate to see the characters doing things outside of fan work, there's not much really to do here. And there's not really much to like get invested with or to really care about. Like, if as a story, like because on its own, it like, forget the philosophy stuff. Let's just push that to the side. It doesn't really seem to have a core it doesn't really seem to have like a core conflict that the story is supposed to be about, because Eggman barely ends up being the antagonist at the time, so you can't even go like the SatAM route where SatAM or Sonic X route where they are regularly having to deal with him. Starline is really and none of the other antagonists are either relevant enough or much of a threat enough to fill that role. It constantly swaps out between who the main character is supposed to be. Like, Sonic basically went a year, basically went from like issue 30. Honestly, you could argue 29, but let's just be nice and say issue 33 to pretty much now without being the main character. Hell, you can even argue issue 50, he's barely the main character. So what's even the so that's like and they just keep rotating out who they're focusing on, but without really doing anything to warrant focusing on this particular other character. Like so I'm just like, I don't even know what would be like. So I'm with you. I don't really get, I'm confused about what, not only what people would get out of this, but what either Flynn or Stanley are going for as creatives, because it really feels completely half thought. This entire comic feels really half thought out and without any type of reason to get properly invested with what you're supposed to be going for, because it doesn't really seem like it's trying to go for really anything.
Yeah.
Even the philosophy we're going for is basically like I can't even really I know that's not Flynn's philosophy. It's just him just trying to have an in-universe reason why they don't deal with the villains. So again, that's just something to patch them. It's a dumb patch, but it's just a patch for the meta concept, for like how the comic is supposed to work. So what is this comic supposed to be going for?
And I genuinely I don't get it, and I don't know. It's sad because it's been 50 issues. Like how many years? 4 years? You say?
Yep, 4 years.
And it's like, guys, how are you falling behind Archie? how is pre-reboot Archie, like gag days, horrible melodrama, like all that stuff? How does it have more ambition and like more just anything going on? Like again, that one, by the end of it, it shat the bed, I think, way harder than anything IDW has, but its highs are way higher than anything in IDW.
Mm-hmm. And again, so I want to start with this because I see this happen all the time when I criticize IDW, and people kind of just throw in like, well, you can't just say like this is like, I know Archie is gone, but you gotta accept that this is new, as a way to try to say like, trying to placate in the sense of like, oh, you're an Archie fan, that's the reason why you're criticizing this. No, you don't need to be an Archie fan to criticize IDW. I'm barely an Archie fan, but as much as I do think I have problems with a lot of the eras for the era, including Flynn. Every era, including Penders, all goes for a lot more and has a lot goes for a lot more, and you get an idea about what they're trying to go for, even if it is completely insane. But this, it just feels like we are just padding stuff through, just trying to get from one thing to another, just to keep the book going for the sake of itself, not because that there's any type of creative drive behind this. And I'm just going to go ahead and say this right now. We'll say this right now when it comes to Frontiers. I get that a lot of people were kind of upset by the fact that it seems like Flynn isn't the creative lead. He's just going to be on dialogue. That is good. He does not need, even if I thought everything he did in Archie was a 10 out of 10, best thing in the world, he's not there anymore. He has his strengths, but being a creative lead is not one of them. So honestly, especially just for everything that we've seen from that he's put out in the last 4 years. So if he has to be on the games, I think the best place for him is just being someone who comes up with the proper dialogue for how he's supposed to sound. Because while I don't think he knows how to write while I don't think he has a good idea about how to write Sonic into a story that's meant to explore and challenge Sonic. Issue 50 is a good example of that. Especially I don't think he knows how to do that now, especially with issue 50. I think he can come up with good dialogue, or at least wording that sounds like it would come out of Sonic's mouth. So if he has to be to any capacity on the Sonic games, this is where he needs to be. He does not need to be a creative lead. Or to put it another way, do you want him to continue to have do you want him to continue to try to rationalize the idea that Eggman, regardless of whatever he does, should just be allowed to continue onward because he might turn good one day? Do you want to see that in the games? Or to put it another way, do you want Sonic to be seen as more of a joke than Steven Universe is right now?
Yeah, because here's the thing. A lot of this comic is, it's still pretty niche, Mm-hmm. Only really the fans of the comic, which are a sect of Sonic fans, are really reading this, and if they're reading it, they probably like it, or they jump ship. But if this type of writing gets in like the general public, then it's for all to see. You know? You know, and those people aren't going to have the bias.
They're not going to be the ones who are going to be like, I want Sonic to be good. This isn't tripping over itself, so therefore I'm going to consider it to be good. They are going to rip into this, and
they probably won't even know it's new writers. Like, and not even like if the quality is better, but just like, you know, just like in general, they might just be like, oh, like I guess the writers figured it out if it was good, or, you know. So.
Yeah, so like is the right, like, let's just say like the script from Forces is in Frontiers is just as silly as the one in Forces. As silly and bad as it was, do you really think that the problem is like the stuff that Flynn does in the comics is easily way more easy to parody and make fun of than stuff that happens in the games now. So I'm like, it's better for him to be where he is just on dialogue than to be any form of creative lead anymore. I hope Stanley does so much better, but Stanley does a lot better. But I think this is probably where he needs to be.
Yeah, I think he could do a good job with it. Now, to be fair, I think the dialogue in this issue was pretty awful, but I think that was just because he was very much like the characters weren't having banter or dialogue. They were doing, this is my character moment. This is my character purpose, and it wasn't good. But I'm not gonna look at this and be like, oh no, he's completely lost his touch. Like, this is a very special circumstance of like, this is Sonic's character moment, and it's wrapped up in this awful exposition dialogue and all this stuff. So like, I ain't gonna look at this and hold him to it as far as like, oh, he's even lost his one good talent. Like, this very clearly is like special circumstances. Right. So but nonetheless disappointing. And yeah, like, I just think it's crazy that it's been a year, or that it's been 50 issues. And this is the big climax. This is what we were building to, is that we introduce another new villain who I have no reason to believe will be any more special or interesting than what ones we've got before. And Sonic gets to double down on being a sociopath. Which also, I don't know what that would mean for his character anyway, other than that, like, these people keep saying I've done something wrong, and I just don't get it. Like he doesn't, because it's not like he comes to like a new decision, right? It's not like he's like it's like the Zavok scene where like he's reflecting and then doubling down, like, or like Serge says these things and he's like, you know what, I hear this a lot, but I've been giving it thought, and it's like, no, it's just like a generic continuation of what he's already been doing. And it's like, okay, well. But yeah, Flynn's gonna write one more issue, I believe. Like, he's writing the aftermath of this, I think, and then it's all Stanley.
Oh, it is? Oh wait. Oh, I thought like that was actually something I was about to say. I thought issue 50 was his last one.
I think he writes 51. You can check. I think it's like The Escape or whatever, and it's like him, and then everything after is like Evan Stanley.
Oh, you're right. No, he does write. I swear I thought I saw him writing 50. 50 was his last one, but yeah, no, 51 is going to be him. They're not even going to escape. They're not even going to escape in 51. They're still going to be in. They're still going to be in there by 50. Still going to be in the city by 52.
Yeah, again, and that's what makes it feel like it's like, we've talked about it. It's weird that we're switching writers, because you think you would just stick with him because he's consistent and like he's obviously, I would assume, a good work ethic and all that stuff. So it's kind of weird that like they're just passing it off to Stanley, and as we can tell, it's not even like Flynn's going to finish the story he wrote. So that's what's really weird about it. Well, I hope things are going well in his personal life, but he hasn't talked about it. So, yeah, I'm very curious as to like what the final issue will be, because I don't think it's going to be like a big moment. I think it's going to be an issue he writes and he's gone.
Yep.
So, and we'll see about Stanley, but if you haven't, for people who don't know, like, I think the biggest problem with Stanley is just that, as awful as it sounds, she's just boring.
Yeah.
Like, her writing has very little charm or personality. A lot of it's very just kind of like, whoa, this character's like emotional and has feelings, but it doesn't really seem like it comes from anywhere. It just kind of feels like a generic, Jewel feels insecure Amy is very encouraging. Sonic is a good boy. And it just kind of feels like, all right, that's it. But then like the dialogue for it is never all that entertaining, at least not to me.
Yeah, no.
So hopefully she gets better, but and hopefully she can come up with some neat ideas. Like I don't think any of her premises have necessarily been bad.
Nope.
As far as like spectacle, like, oh, we go into this weird hypo dimension. We do like a fun little arc with the girls going on a camping trip, or like they go to this chow racing thing, and then Shadow gets involved, and Sonic gets involved, and Starline's there. It's just the moment to moment. It's just pretty lame. So
right. I will say this. I do want Evan to stop trying to change the premises halfway through, because she has a habit of doing that. Well, like that's what happened with the chow race, where it's like, oh yeah, we're going to focus on like Amy, Cream, and Rouge racing cheese in order to get parts for Omega and for Gemroll, but then it ends up just turning into everyone like we have to deal with Starline, we also have to deal with the Avalanche, and then it just kind of ends with a fart. Or when it comes to the virtual reality arc, where it's like, oh, Sonic, Tails, and Amy get caught in this virtual reality world where Eggman is God, but then all that comes from it is that it turns into a boss rush, and now Tangle and Belle have to go in and save them. Like, okay, I guess. And
it feels like the main idea doesn't get a chance to like breathe and like be its own thing before we're introducing another new idea. It's like, well, hold on. You didn't kind of finish off the cool idea that you were already doing. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas like Flynn, he just mostly extends his arcs, like with the zombie arc. It's like it's still the Zombot arc, but it's just now there's a new person in charge. It wasn't like the Zombots got dispatched, and then now we're dealing with the Zeti. It was that the Zeti take over the Zombots, so there's like a core through line that we have to stop. Whereas like with Evan, like you said, it's like it kind of goes from Chow's and then to Starline, and then we're done, and then like you talked about. So yeah, hopefully she can kind of, and then the camping arc is campfire, or it's like fun camping, campfire, and then like kind of some hints towards Surgeon Kid or whatever, that's like her most concise story. It's like campfire, or it's like camping arc. Now there's a campfire, got to deal with it, which is like makes more or less the amount of sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I want to get some new writers. Like even if Evan doesn't have, even if Evan, is going to remain the head writer, I hope we can get some like more people who just new blood, basically. Like give me my new Ian Flynn, the new kid who's fresh off the block and just wants to write some Sonic stuff. Because I'm ready for it. I need some new ways of reading Sonic, new ways, because I've seen Flynn and he's just consistently been corroding and degrading in quality. And so it's just a worse version of what I've loved. And at this point, it's not even close to what I used to like. And then Evan, she's been around a long time. She's been here since Reboot, writing for Silver Story and all that stuff. And her stuff just kind of has stayed stagnant. So I want new people.
Yeah, no, completely agree. So I would be kind of interested to see if they can bring in someone a little bit new, bring someone new, or just bring in some new blood. I would love to see that happen. But yeah, we'll see. There are a couple of premises that have already been released. I had very low expectations for them, but we'll just see how those go. Do you have any more thoughts about these?
Not really. Incredibly disappointing. Very bad. Not good. Oof. The end. What about you?
Same. It's just these issues have just kind of like I kind of covered it before. Where it's just like this series has felt really aimless because it doesn't seem like it's trying to go for any ideas, any type of character focus, or any type of story conflict. It's just kind of just pumping stuff out for the sake of just keeping the comics alive for the sake of it. And I know that people have positive view towards Flynn, mostly just because he's not Pontaf and he's not Penders, or possibly just friends told him that he's good. At best, I just want people to go, I don't want anyone to hate him. I don't want anyone like flooding his Twitter or anything, but let's just be more willing to admit that he's a D+ writer right now, And if we want him to get an A want him to get better, we need to start being willing to call him out and not just try to retroactively try to pretend like all this stuff makes sense, because it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's there. You know, you can expect better from Sonic, because you can have better stories than aimless action and then like pseudo intellectual nonsense. But yeah, no, that's about all I got. That we went for an hour and a half, so that's pretty good. We were pretty concise too. Heck yeah.
Oh yeah, really. Yeah, actually, we kind of are. If you do upload this, if you do upload this, can you make sure you're putting a timestamp